Okay, welcome everyone. I hope that you're all tuning in, either streaming with me, you're on Zoom with me, wherever you are, even in the world. I'm coming to you from sunny Arizona in the city of Goodyear. And my name is Deborah Goley, and I am a full-time artist. I have been instructing classes for about 20 years now, and prior to that, I was a practicing architect. So I have always loved art and been around art. And now I get to bring it to you, and that's really cool. Just a few things. If you have some questions for me as we go along and you're doing this live with me, you could put something into the chat, and I may or may not see it right away because I would have to be turning and looking back at you guys. So if there's something that we go over and you weren't quite sure about, you could replay it on the YouTube video, and you could also email me with your questions. Plus, I'd love to see your pictures, so maybe you could attach a picture of your artwork today, and we can go over any specifics or things that you might like to enhance or do differently. This is my name right up here, Deborah Goley Art. Deborah Goley Art is my website, and if you want to email me, just say Deborah@deborahgoleyart.com, and you can find me there. So without further ado, let's get creating. I know some of you you anticipate this time together. Maybe this is your first time because you have the summers off. Maybe you're traveling. Maybe you want to do this with your family and friends. And for some of you, you're always tuning in and doing it. And so that's nice that you keep up that practice of always honing your skills in a new and fun way, and maybe discovering something about yourself that you didn't quite know or discover. Maybe you're like, I do like Impressionism or Pointillism, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I happen to have here a book from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I have a whole library, a plethora of books that I refer to. And guess what? When I just went to my library this morning to get out some reference material for you today, this is on the cover. And it's basically, you can see up close, you've got all of those beautiful dots on there. And so I thought that would be fun for us today to incorporate that into our background as an impressionistic painting. This happens to be Van Gogh. I'll show you a picture of him. Yes, I think you can see he's got an ear on this picture. Maybe we can't see the other side. Maybe that was his missing ear. I don't know. But it's going to be fun. So without further ado, I want to go over our supplies so that you have them handy. I do have a palette of paint, and if you were able to look online when you registered for the class, then you would have seen have some primary colors plus white. I don't use a lot of black in my work, but if you have that, that's great too. I have some brushes. I've got a round brush. I've got a flathead brush. Most things in nature, like we're doing today, a garden of irises, are round. So a round brush will do just fine. On occasion, when I've got fences and windows and things that might need a little more structure, no pun intended, I have a flathead brush. As far as the paints go that I squirted out onto the palette, it could have come out of one of your starter kits in these cute little bottles. It could be your professional paint. It could be your craft paint. Doesn't matter, whatever you have today will be fine. As you get more and more into this, you may want to email me and say what's the best paint for whatever substrate that you're using. Speaking of substrates, ta-da, I have a gallery wrapped canvas here. This one happens to be 11 by 14, not a big one like it is over here in my sample. I did this in my creative aging classes a couple of years ago on a smaller board. So this is just a canvas board, but you could be painting on whatever you have handy. Acrylic paint is your friend. It dries pretty quickly, It mixes really well. It is not too smelly, right? So it's a little different than your oils. And if you want that oily sheen after we're all done, this is what I put over the whole thing. This one right now does not have a sheen on it. It's still matte. But if I want this to shine and be um, as shiny as an oily painting, then that's what I do. I put on a gloss medium. And you can get it in different brands, Sargent, Liquitex, Golden, they all make them. Okay, let's get started. I do have a piece of chalk that was on the list. So if you have a piece of chalk to draw with, that's really good. I find chalk a nice drawing utensil because I can erase it easily with a little bit of water on my finger. I'm going to use charcoal today just because it'll show up better on the camera. If you're using charcoal, just know it's sometimes not your friend because it mixes with your paints and makes things a little bit darker than they should be. So you ready? Let's do some irises together. I love the shapes because they're so organic. Nature is organic, so you really can't go wrong with your shapes. And don't go so tiny that you really can't enjoy the fact that the dots in contrast are going to be tiny. So let's make sure that we make our irises bigger. If you draw them too small right now, when you paint them, you can go bigger, okay? All right, so I'm gonna have one about right here. Maybe the petal is like a diamond shape. Maybe I'm gonna have a little droopy shape. I don't have an iris in front of me to look at, so right now I'm just pulling from my memory bank. I don't encourage that. If you're a beginner, I would get an iris out and really study the iris and know what it is we're drawing. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to have another little piece here and a flop down like its tongue. Okay, so I've got 3 larger pieces and this little small piece. Now I'm going to go over to the other blue one. I'm just looking at my picture over here. So I have blue flower, blue flower, blue flower. So I'm going to put one over here. You can tell even that they're not real defined. I don't have a lot of detail on this. It's just going to be this colorful, whimsical composition that will look good, you know, for the summertime and even into the fall because there's so many fall colors in this. So I'm going to put another little leaf petal on here. So now I've got my 2 blues. Concentrating on my blue ones. I'll bring this forward so you can see. Okay. Let's see if this even does show up better. Does that work? Oh yeah. You know what? Let's just go with the chalk here. You could use a pencil to draw with. You could use paint to draw with. No worries there. So I'm just going to trace over the charcoal because it looks like my chalk is showing up for you guys. Okay, so I've got 2 blues and I'm going to put another blue kind of hanging in over here in the corner. And he might be engaging the edges, which means he's coming off the page. Remember, this is a smaller canvas than this one. So my iris field that I'm going to be walking through is all of the irises way up close and the background far, far away. And the background might be more irises, but they're just little speckles because you don't really, you're not really up close to them to see any defined edges. So here's my 3 blues. Okay, now I'm going to put in my light oranges or my yellow oranges. So I've got one of those up here. Looks like I kind of went kind of rough around the edges for that one. I'm going to engage the edge of the canvas for the side here. And I'm going to have another floppy one, and I can't see the tongue on this one. So there's going to be an orange or yellow orange. I'm going to have another yellow orange down here. This is going to be a beautiful field, and we're going to be able to just march right along. I had done this painting in very detail but I've since let it go to a forever home. And so I did this little sample for you guys and think that it's just a little bit more whimsical and probably a little bit easier for beginners. But if you would like to see my detailed original, I'd be happy to share that with you. Just email me and I'll share it with you. Okay, so here are 2 yellow oranges. Here are 3 blues marching along. I like odd numbers, so I got 5. But I'm also going to add in some that are not so brilliant and bold. They're just kind of the medium, we'll call them the mama bears. If these are all the papa bears out front, I'm going to have a few mama bears that are not so prominent. So let's put in one that kind of looks like a tulip. Well, that's appropriate for my mama bear flower. So there is part of an iris right here. And I'm going to have part of a droopier iris. It's going to eventually just be kind of a peachy orange up here. And I'm going to have something kind of right here. It does have a bigger tongue. So I've got those 3. I've got 3, 3, and 2 more. So I do have an odd number, which is great. Everything else is going to be like my path through this garden, like I'm walking through. And the little dots could be pebbles, it could be the grass, it could be, you know, seedlings of new irises popping forward. Okay, so why don't we get started, and let's go ahead and paint those blue flowers with 1 coat, because we're going to do several coats. So I have a long handled brush here. You may have a short handled brush. There are 2 sizes of brushes in length, and of course they have numbers on them that tell you how big the head of the brush is. So if you're standing, it's nice to have a long, or even if you're sitting and you're working a couple of feet away. If you're sitting right over it, you might like the little short. Either way, they work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these blue flowers in here just so they really pop out to you guys before we put the leaves on. And I'm filling that in. I'm using a round hog's hair brush, a bristle. You have to use several coats when you paint because some colors that not have as much pigment in them. Some colors, it's just the nature of it, like yellow. Yellow needs lots of coats unless you put white to make it more opaque. Okay, so there's 1. I'm so excited to do this project with you. When I taught it to my creative aging group, which is kind of the 55 and older crowd here where I live and around the West Valley, we were using different utensils to have fun with creating it. And so we were dabbing at it with sponges and Q-tips and anything to get that texture and have the paint act like oil that was really thick and coming off the page. So you can have fun with it in different ways. You could do the same exercise, the same painting, and change it up and get a whole new different look. You could change up just using different colors and it's going to look different every time, right? Okay, because this is gallery wrapped, I'm actually going to put a little bit on the bottom, right? Because it's going around that way. And that way, if I prop it up on my mantle place or a shelf in the living space, it looks completely finished. All right, let's see, what else? I have a blue one right here. See, this is why we're going to go ahead and color code them. so we don't put a stem or a leaf right over one of these beautiful petals. Ta-da! Oh my gosh, isn't that fun? They already look like they're marching along. And that's just one coat. Okay, I'm gonna clean my brush. If you know how to clean your brush, great. I'll just give you a few tips if you're new at this. But I just swish it around, and look, I have a blue cup, not to be confused with my drinking cup. You can tell I've done that before, right? Yes. So I swish it around, and then I take my napkins. I do have some napkins handy. I use a lot of the foam plates and napkins. I buy them in bulk like that. And I just, until it comes clean on my napkin. Don't squeeze the hair. Otherwise, it's going to come loose from the metal part. You know, your hair's from the hog or the horse is just glued in there. And so to preserve your brushes a lot longer, you don't, and plus you don't want flying hair coming out and getting stuck all over your painting. So I just do that. I go back and forth. And if I'm not using it again right away, I let it dry flat. Then I'll store it upright. Don't ever store it like that, or you're going to have a crooked little tip. Okay, just a few tips, because you want to take good care of your tools, especially when you find the brush that you absolutely love. Okay, I'm going to make some yellow orange. So how do I do that? I've got some orange, or you may have red. So red and yellow make orange. So I happen to have an orange. I happen to have some yellow, and I've got a little bit of white over here. So I'm going to grab some of the orange. And this is where it might be handy to have another plate. If you want to mix it on another plate, I'm just going to mix it right here for the sake of the camera. And I'm going to mix these two together to make my orange a little bit lighter until I get something just about where I want. And then I'm going to take some white, and that's where I'm getting that yellow orange right there. Okay, and I'm going to paint that right on the canvas. I don't have to really worry at this time cleaning up edges, because I'm going to be putting the background on and leaves on before I do that second coat, where I can clean some stuff up. So don't get too detailed or trying to make everything just perfect. There's no perfect in art. I tell that to all my little kiddos that come. I work out of my home studio, and I have many students that come throughout the week, and it's such a joy to see how everyone is uniquely made and how everyone creates so differently. You can give the same subject like I am today for you guys, and everyone's looks so different. If you are not into irises and you had some time to prepare and you picked out a different field of flowers, the concept is the same, right? You're going to have bigger ones in front, and then you're going to go to the medium flowers, and then you'll have the tiny ones in the very back. So we're making a perspective, if you haven't guessed. I know, these big words. Okay, so I'm putting some of that yellow orange in there. White really helped, not only to lighten it, but it helped the yellow be more opaque. Okay, so now I have my two yellow oranges. Okay, I don't think I need to clean my brush. I'm just going to dip right into the orange and put it in this one. Now this one's going to be very similar to the background. The only thing different is it's not going to have the dots on it. So it will stand out even though it's the same color. Crazy, huh? texture can make things different, right? Can actually make things different, even if they're the same color. White with this one since it's higher on the horizon. So I'm putting a little white with my orange to make this one a little bit lighter. It's kind of a rule of thumb, things that are closer to the horizon line, which is where the sky meets the ground. In this case, we can't even see our sky. But we know the further things get away, the more diffused the light. It's not very clear. I think that's just true in life too. We don't see very clearly right away, you know. So we seek truth and things that bring us into closer awareness. So I love that that gets lighter there. Okay, now I have what looks like, you know, 1960s wallpaper at this point, but that's okay. Because now what we're going to do is establish where all the leaves are. So I'm going to take my chalk and I'm going to start drawing some linear lines, and they're going to be somewhat parallel, but they can be wavy and organic, so we're not going to get a ruler out or anything like that. So let's put some here in the middle. So maybe we have, think of them like big baked French fries. Okay, so I've got 3 there. And maybe I've got a stem here, and I've got a linear line there. I'm just being random with them. I mean, it's a field, and those, they have those wispy, almost tulip-like leaves to them. Very sculptural. And I will bring this closer so you can see. There's really no rhyme or reason. I'm just drawing a bunch of organic shapes. Let's put a stem over here, and maybe we have another something green there. Very playful. And the higher we get, the smaller the leaves are going to get, right? They're just going to be little short French fries up there. Okay, I think we're ready to fill those in. Now, I have a green I already poured, a phthalo green, but you can see I have 2 colors of green here. So I'm going to make a lighter green, or you could pour your grassy green. If you have 2 greens, but you can make green, because green is just made from blue and yellow. That's why you don't even have to have a green. So I could just use the green right out of the can here. And I'm going to kind of skip around. I'm not going to do all of them the same color. So this one could be the darker green, and then I'm going to skip and make a darker green here and save this one for the light green. And again, this is just my first coat. I'm going to come back later and do a second coat. I hope you're enjoying this day painting. And get your day started in the right direction, that you've actually accomplished something today, right? Oh, let's see, maybe I'll put another green one right here. I'm going over the edge too, remember, because I have a gallery wrapped canvas. You might be just working on a board. You don't need to go around. Okay. Filling it in. Even if you get too fat with it, like let's say you really think your leaves look a little bulbous or too big, you can thin it up by putting the light green in right over it, like it's 2 leaves or 3, a clump of leaves. So I always call that a happy accident, because it's an opportunity for you to do something you hadn't thought about or didn't plan. Not getting too detailed with it because I have to put on my background in just a minute. Usually we do backgrounds first, but since we're gonna work in layers and for the sake of time, I'm not putting my background on first. I do teach all mediums. I've done watercolors with you all. You can go back and look at some of those. I've done some paper collage. So you'll find that there's times when you put a background on first, like watercolor for sure. Okay, now I'm going to make up some little bit more lighter green. So I've got my green here. I'm going to put some white with it, but it's looking a little minty, right? If I put a little yellow with it, guess what? I can get it to look more appealing. The more yellow, the more yellowy green it's going to get. And how beautiful is that color? Oh my gosh, love that color. Okay, but let's say I got too big with this one. See, I could just put one right over it. Maybe there is a renegade tulip in my garden. If you know me, I am not a green thumb. I do have one of those really cool garden towers where I'm growing all of my vegetables, flowers in this vertical thing that's all hydroponic, right? Because I just can't, I'm not very good at a traditional garden. I just need something that I can just let it go and not have to till the soil. Okay, so this one's going to be a light green. Then I have more time to paint. But I can still get all my good veggies. And I have something pretty to look at so I can paint them. So now I have a composition. I have everything where I want it to go. You know, I have this bold blue in the front, the yellow-orange toward the front, and these guys, they're going to kind of fade with the background when I put the background in. So let's talk about background. Okay, so I have my cleaned off brush, and I am going to use orange, but I'm going to put a little white with it, because when I dot paint, when I do the impressionistic style, I want my dots to shine and come alive against a a little bit lighter background. So I made myself a light orange. You can see that. And I'm going to put that in the background. If you want it kind of peachy, maybe add a little bit of red to it. Let's see what happens. Add a little red, a little spot of red for my British friends out there. Yeah, I kind of like that little bit more peachy background. So you get to play with it. This could be like red dirt. I don't know where you guys live, but we have lots of interesting dirt. Lots of it. But if you go further north, like to Sedona area, and have the red rocks, the minerals that are in this type of rock, that red stone. Okay. So I'm just taking my brush and very carefully, which I got some green on there from my thumb. I need to wash my brush now. Don't wear clothes that you love. I mean, just things like that. Like I just accidentally stuck my finger into the green paint, and then you could have went like this on your clothes. So I typically wear a apron that you just throw in the wash, because this does not come out of your clothes. And so you can still clean your clothes, but make sure it's your clothes that you don't mind getting messy, because it will never, ever come out. Okay, I'm going to let that dry and paint over that in just a minute. That's the nice thing about acrylic. So if you get a little spot where you didn't want that color, just let it dry and you can cover over it later. In fact, if you don't like this whole painting, which I'm sure you're going to love when you're done, and you could blank it all out with some white, right? And have it ready for the next one you do with me. And hopefully I will be back doing another one of these with you guys. I really enjoyed it. I'm used to teaching in person, and so to be able to bring this to more people wherever you're at has been a blessing. Okay, so I'm getting all that peachy color on there. It's okay if I get it on my leaves or my flowers, because I'm going to come back later and do another coat, so not worry. And I'm kind of just painting on it every which way. If you need to switch to a smaller head brush to get in between some of those petals, you can do that. If you didn't mix enough of your peachy color, you just needed a little bit more, you know what I do? I keep a little spray bottle handy, and you can just pick one of those up at the dollar store or whatever, and I can activate my paint to try to get it to loosen up a bit and use what I need to extend the paint. You can't do that with oils, of course. Water and oil don't like each other. So don't try that with your oils. I'm just putting on this background. Okay if you get some areas lighter than others, right? I mean, no patch of dirt is exactly the same color. Maybe the light's shining more on that area. So I don't get hung up if my background is not all contiguous, same color. Plus, remember, we're going to be putting all those dots on top, so you have to remember that. Our pictures is looking good. How fun is this, you guys? Okay, I gotta make it a little more peachy here. I think it needs a little more red. So I'm gonna take this little pop of red out of a bottle. Get some white. It's like a pinky peach. And I'll put it in there. You know, if you were Vincent van Gogh, you would have been just staring outside of your window and painting what you see. He was a starving artist, and so it's not like he would have gone to the market and bought a bunch of flowers. So you can look through books and things for your inspiration, and I keep file folders, you know, of all the things that are attractive to me that eventually I might turn into my little design inspiration for another project. That one's got a little green stuck on it. I'm not worried about it. Okay, I'm going to switch to a smaller brush just because I see that I need to get into this little area. There, I got in there. And any other. I do not like to keep things white, so I'm just going to go through and see if there's anything that I could cover up that might be white. Get my water closer to me so I'm not blocking your view. Okay, I think everything got covered. Now we're going to go back and put a second coat on the first thing we painted, which was the blue flowers. So we're going to be dipping back into our blue, or at this point you want to change the color. Like maybe you weren't too happy with that. You know, maybe you want to make it more periwinkle blue or eggplant or something else. Now's your opportunity because you've already figured out where it goes and you put a nice base coat on there. So if you want to change it, now's okay. I'm going to stick with the same blue just so I don't confuse you too much. And I'm going to put that second coat on there. Now I'm painting in the way something grows. So I'm starting at the center and working my way out. In other words, don't go up and down this way. You want to paint in the way something grows. I'm not going to outline anything just now. I'm going to do that after I have worked on my leaves. And now I'm working on the petals. Putting that second coat on. The blue should go on pretty simple. It is more opaque. Should go on without giving you too much trouble. If you want to make it lighter, just add some white to it, right? Maybe that one's got a little bit lighter because it's sticking up. That's kind of that periwinkle, isn't it? Not getting detailed. I think that's what's really nice about this style. You could be at any stage in your development, and you could not get hung up on the details. You're studying color and composition, and not so worried about every little brush stroke that you create. And that could be another class that we do when we work on that. Okay, I'm adding just a tad of white to my wet paint. So the blue's already wet, so they call this painting wet on wet, because I have a little white on there, and it's mixing with the blue and giving me a little bit of sheen and 3-dimension to my petals. Okay, so there is my second coat. I'm going to switch now to the yellow orange. I have a lot of blue on my brush. Get that off there. And if your water's getting a little dirty that you're cleaning with, you may have to go and empty it and start over. Okay, so I'm getting a little yellow orange going right there. I think it needs a little more orange to it. Second coat. That one wasn't too hard at all. Now I'm going to do my second coat of the orange. I didn't really have to wash my brush that much. You've got some little white holidays, I call them holidays. Now's the chance you get to fill them in with your petal color. Opportunities. Okay, guess what's next? We're going to go back to our leaves. A little more in there. Another coat on there. Again, you're painting in the direction something grows. You want to make it a darker green, you can add the blue or the opposite of green, which is red. I don't put a lot of black in my work. I use it sparingly. You would get a different look if you added black to the green. I'm just going over all the little spots for my field of irises here. I'm sure, I think we're probably well past the tiger lilies, and I don't know what's going on right now on the East Coast. Of course, we would never have these growing here where I live this time of the year. Okay, I'm going to do my light green. Got some white mixed with the green, but remember that's a little minty. So what do I got to do? I got to pick up some of that yellow and make yellow orange. Excuse me, yellow green. You could add more in there, or separate two pieces by two leaves by putting a little of the lighter green on top. Make it pop out more. Okay. I think everything's been given its first coat. Now, we don't have to come back and do a second coat of the background because we're just going to be dotting over the background. So we really don't need to do that. But I do want to have a few patches of maybe some bushes or something along the horizon that makes it a little more interesting. Right now, it just looks like I'm on the way to nowhere, right? So I really want to have maybe a stop to my garden or the pathway that leads me. Maybe there's an opening right there. So I'm just going to take my green and I'm going to dab maybe a bush, or maybe it's a boxwood of some sort in the distance. So I'm going to put some green up here along the horizon, just to make it more interesting. Give it context, you know, where is my field or my garden of irises? Maybe it's in a more formal garden, right? With some boxwood or something going on back here. So I'm just dabbing at it, not making it very regular. I'm putting that in my background. Okay, that just makes it a little more interesting. I think I need a little green coming through there. Maybe something there. Maybe this one needs a stem. Stem on that one. And maybe this needs a stem. Kind of look around right now and see if something is missing a stem. Okay. Now I'm going to do something kind of fun. I'm going to find the back of my paintbrush or a Q-tip. If you don't have a Q-tip handy, you can use the back of your paintbrush. So we're looking for something that we can make some dots with. And I want to say that with this one, it might have been a little sponge brush. I think this one I did with the Q-tip, but this works just as great. All right, so I'm going to show you both methods. So on a clean plate, I'm going to put some of that beautiful orange, just the orange by itself. Okay, so that's going to be one of my colors. And then I actually have gold, or like a dirty yellow, earthy yellow. So I'm going to put some yellow on my plate. Okay, but I got to dirty it up. So if I put just a tad of blue with it, the opposites play together. Well, they're not true opposites, but they're blue with a little bit of red. I'm going to dirty it up. So now it becomes kind of a dirty gold color. I know. Did you know that? Like the gold has little blue in it. So the opposite of yellow is purple, and purple is made from blue and red. Okay. So let's try doing the back of a paintbrush first. Okay, so I'm going to put my lighter, I'm going to put my darker color on first, just so it'll show up and you get the idea of what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to start dotting with the back of my paintbrush. And I kind of like the little peaks that it's leaving on there because that just adds to the texture of the style that I'm going for. I'm also okay if it gets onto my green or my blue, because remember I told you I'm going to come back and do some outlining. So that's when I can clean it up. And this could be kind of fun. You could be sitting there dotting away while you're enjoying a cup of tea, or maybe you're calling a friend. The dotting can be kind of mindless. See, this is looking a lot different than when I did it in one of my other classes. You can change it up a little bit. They're not perfect dots. It's the idea that there's a lot going on in the background. It's going to add depth. It's going to add interest. Okay, I'm going to show you now how to do it. You got a Q-tip handy. These get to be a little more regular unless your Q-tip starts to fall apart on you. So you might want to have some, a lot more handy. You know you're going to get a workout today, don't you? If you paint standing up, it is a good workout. You start to feel it in your arm because it is all about your arm. It's not about your wrist. If you're choked up on your brush like this, then you have less range of motion. Maybe that's just for doing really tight detail work. But for the most part, you're way out here, right? And you're drawing with your arm. So you're not hurting your hand muscles. You could do this with the grandkids. They might even like using their finger, right? Okay, you can see in this one that I changed up near the horizon. It's mostly gold with a little bit of light green. So I don't need to, in this one, put go all the way up with the orange. Okay, I think I'm about ready to switch to gold that I made up. And it's really going to fill in a lot. Okay, so I'm going to use the other side of my Q-tip. And I am now going to put in some gold. Start where you first started so that it will be dry, more dry as you put on another layer. If your gold is not dirty enough, you can add a tad more purple to it so it looks like puke. But I bet it's looking good. Just dots close together really change the landscape. Okay, up near the horizon, I can put the gold. Because I am going to stamp up there some light green with the gold. The light green and the gold are analogous, just like gold and orange are analogous. They're close together on the wheel. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. And you could keep on dotting all day long. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of the light green now. You can use the back of your brush if you prefer. I'm going to put some of that light green up here near the horizon. I'm just dotting away. Adding some interest. Okay. So I'll bring it forward before we out. I'm going to outline it just a few things. So I'm bringing it forward so that you can see. And now to tie it all together, we're going to use a little bit of an outline. So in this case, I like to use a little darker, and I did use blue with a tiny bit of green, or you could put the opposite of blue, which is orange. Let's see what that does. So here's my blue. A little bit of orange will make it darker. So I get kind of a, almost looks like a teal. Okay, so I'm going to take that, just give this iris on the dark side a little bit of definition, especially where I might have gotten a orange dot stuck somewhere, right? that I don't really love, like right there. And that's going to give you a little definition to the petals. You can put it on the stem because the stem is made of green, and I could use that same thing that I just made up. I could have a dark side to my stem or leaf. Just like that. I'm just picking a side to kind of go darker on. Now, I'm not going to change with making a darker orange with orange. I'm just going to kind of stick to this color. You can, though, you could. I'm just kind of going around. I'm not going around every little petal, but enough to give it some definition. Yes, yes. It's coming together. This is where you can clean up wherever you got a little dot stuck on something and you need to clean it up. Maybe you need a shadow in there somewhere. This one's kind of drooping off, and maybe just at the end of its process there. Okay, and last but not least, I'm going to put a little bit of white to that color. Just a little bit, because up here at the horizon, I want it to be a little bit. Kind of dirt, kind of got a little dirty. Okay, we're almost ready to sign our work. Can you believe this time went so fast? And you're enjoying your time. I know for me it does. It goes way too fast. And then I always go, what happened? Again, if you felt like you need to review some of the parts of today's lesson, you're able to go back and review that pretty easily with your signing into the YouTube channel. And you can find it under the City of Goodyear Arts and Culture channel. And if you have any questions for me, like how in the world did I make that darker color for going around all the flowers and the petals, you can reach out to me. You can go to my website right up here. And if you want to email me, just put Deborah at in front of deborahgoleyart.com. And I'm happy to take questions. We also have an online gallery for these classes that are offered in my partnership with the city. And so if you send me or Rosie, who might have given you the link for today, if you send us the image, we can load it up and put it into a little online gallery that everyone can enjoy. I'm just lightening up a couple of these. These. Cleaning them up where I might have got a dot right on top of them. Right there. Okay, I think I'm ready to sign it. So I'm going to take a smaller brush. And you always want to put it inside your frame, right? So in this case, let's see, did I sign this one? Maybe I didn't even sign that one. So let's see, I'm going to use, maybe I'll just use a swatch of this red-orange. Always sign your work so that you can claim it or someone will remember you by it. And voila, you now have an impressionistic painting that was inspired by our friend Vincent van Gogh. And there's lots of texture, there's color, we have perspective going on. We're moving throughout the painting from large objects in the front to small, tiny little dots in the back. And I think it adds a lot of interest and whimsy, and it certainly brings it all together, and it's joyful, and you can have this up year round to make you feel, like you've got your garden inside. So I hope you've enjoyed your time with me today, and I look forward to many more paint events with you. And until we meet again, please keep creating, because you are uniquely created. Take care, guys. See ya.